Today we're doing past simple and past continuous, okay? So past simple, really simple. You should probably all be quite familiar with it. It has a very simple structure, a lot easier than probably in your own languages, because basically we just have one form of the past simple verb, regardless if we're talking about I, you, he, she, it, they, we always use the same form. So we have regular verbs where we simply add ed. So work becomes worked. And we have irregular verbs. For example, eat becomes ate. But as I said, we just would say, I worked, you worked, they worked, he worked, she worked. It's all the same. So it's a lot easier than other languages. For negative and for questions, it's really important that we use the auxiliary did. Okay, so negative, I didn't or did not eat anything. And questions, where did you go? Okay, the really important thing here to remember that a lot of you sometimes forget is that the main verb remains in the base form if you're using the auxiliary verb. So remember it as in the sense of you only really need one thing to tell you in a sentence what the tense is. So if you're using an auxiliary verb, you don't need another verb in the past. Okay, so what do we use the past simple for? Well, very obviously for finished actions, states, habits, anything that was in the past, okay? We often use it with a time expression, like yesterday, in 2003, last week, but we can also use it for a period of time that is generally understood to have been finished. So for example, the Vikings invaded Britain. We know that that is a period of time that is over, as at the moment, the Vikings are not invading Britain. Okay, we also use it for finished actions or states or habits that we've used the present perfect to introduce. Okay, so I think we've talked about this in other sessions. For example, I've hurt my leg. We've introduced the action with present perfect, and then we continue with the sequence of events that led to you hurting your leg with the past simple. Okay, so I fell off the ladder when I was painting. We also use it, and this is what we're going to focus on today, for stories or lists of events. Okay, we use the past simple to talk about the key events in a story. So he went to the cafe, people were chatting and music was playing, and he sat down and he ordered a coffee. So the main key events of the story are in past simple. Okay, past continuous is a little bit more complex because you've got two verbs always. You always have the verb be, was or were, and the main verb in ing form. Okay, so this is probably quite similar to probably a lot of your own languages, the structure there. In negative, we simply make the was or were negative. Okay, so I was not eating dinner at 8 p.m. Questions, the same. As we've already got the verb be, we just have to worry about our structure. So we've changed the position of the subject and the verb be in comparison to when it's a sentence. Okay. When do we use it? Well, we use it when we have two things generally happening at the same time. Okay. And we usually use the past continuous one to talk about the thing that started first and often continues after the other action. Okay, so I was walking to the station when I met John. I started walking to the station before I met John, and after I said goodbye to John, I probably continued walking to the station. Just as I mentioned before, we use it in combination with the past simple for stories. And we use it to create the background of our story. So to tell people what was happening at the time that these key events happened. So the birds were singing, the sun was shining, people were laughing and chatting, and Amy sat down and took out her phone. Okay, so the whole first part is past continuous, where you're setting the scene for your story. Temporary habits. So we use this very much in the same way as we use the present continuous to talk about habits that are temporary. Okay, and we can use the adverbs always, constantly, forever in the same way. So she was constantly singing, for example, is one case.